The Question Is, from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And this is The Question Is. And the question today is, who am I to lead people?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah. And this is like a mini-series we're going to create about insights from coaching. So these are questions that come up a lot when we're coaching people. I'm sure you've had that question. I have it loads of times.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to explore what might we say if somebody asked that question. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because the first temptation is to sort of start talking about, well, why shouldn't you? What's the issue here?
Yeah. Well, that is a fair starting point, because often that question is based on a perception of leadership that might not be true. It might be false.
Yeah.
That leaders are something special, or, that people are born to lead, and I wasn't born to lead, therefore I can't lead.
Right. Some of the things that I have come across, in fact, quite recently, last couple of months, is where people have had the transition from, well, I used to be their manager, now I'm their leader.
Yes.
Trying to work out, is there a difference to that? And am I being perceived differently? And how do I feel about that myself?
Yeah, because there's sort of, to me, when I'm coaching people, I think there's two issues to explore here. One is perceptions of what does leadership mean,
right?
And I think there's I almost go, there's a thing you have to acknowledge in a leadership role, that all the books you're going to read on leadership, not books, but the biographies, the movies you watch, they tell a story of leadership that's kind of romanticized, for want of a better word, isn't it? There's no movie of this guy tried really hard for 20 years but couldn't make it work, and then suddenly it clicked, because it'd be a dull movie.
Absolutely, the leader is the hero, isn't it? I mean, that's what comes across in the movies and the stories. Yeah,
and there is probably a few, but there's hardly any great leadership journey stories where actually it turns out the person screwed it up at the end. Because again, it doesn't make a good story, it doesn't make a good book.
Right.
So we kind of have this perception of these leaders are magical or something special, which I'm not sure that's true.
No, I don't think it is either.
So the other one, I think the other part of this for me is it's that kind of, you said it earlier, I used to be a manager, now I'm a leader. Well, what's the difference?
Yes. And I think one of the differences there must be, being absolutely clear about what's being asked of you, being clear about what the difference in the role is. And part of it, I think the things that I was referring to, or the most recent experiences in coaching conversations, is where the manager's now become a leader almost unexpectedly. They've gone for a promotion and won the promotion without necessarily thinking about, oh, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Now that I'm in this position and I'm more senior, now what do I do? And is it different?
Yes, I've had one of those recently where actually the person is basically doing what they used to do,
right?
But in a bigger position, and two things are happening. One, because they now have more people working for them because they're higher up in the organization, it's not possible for them to basically do all the things they used to do for everybody. Right. So they're working ridiculous hours, and you can see they're going to fall over.
Yeah.
But the other is, the people working for them are kind of looking at them strange because they want something different now.
Yes.
They don't want somebody who does the work or turns up and solves problems or takes things off them. Yeah. They want somebody who's giving them direction and clarity. And
absolutely. Yeah. We no longer need you to be organizing the deck chairs and telling us where things go. We need to be inspired.
Yes.
We need somebody who's going to help us to develop and to grow. And I think, that's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think what makes that worse is it's not clear. It's not clear as in, it's not that one day you're a manager and the next day you're a leader.
Right.
These are kind of almost separate functions. So you can come across people in a team who are in a very strong leadership position. People are following them and looking to them to do the leadership, provide the clarity, direction. And yet they're going, I have no authority, management power whatsoever.
Right.
I'm not their boss. I don't have any control over them. You go, well, yeah, because leadership and management are different.
It's interesting because I don't know what your experience on this is, Paul, but some of those people who are those natural leaders that you've just been describing don't necessarily see themselves as leaders because there isn't an authority label to the role that they have.
Yes, I think I see that a lot, that people confuse it the other way around and go, I've been asked to lead on this, and then tell you why they can't do it, and they describe management.
Right.
They go, but I can't tell them what to do, and I can't discipline them when it goes wrong. And you go, that's all fine, but that makes you their manager.
Right.
That doesn't make you a leader. A leader, I like I think it's Cotto who has that description, and I know this is from a change management perspective, but he has a description of management is about conformance and process, and getting things done the way we think about it today, and leadership is about transformation and change the way we think about it tomorrow.
Right.
So the leadership is the future focused part, and management is the today focused part. And clearly, if you're in a senior position in a company, you probably need to do a bit of both.
Yes, and I think that's probably a further confusion, if you like, to the role or to the feeling of the role, because there is an expectation that you do a bit of both. And especially if you were a manager before and now you're a leader, it's difficult to give one up rather than do the other. And I think there's also the expectation of organizations. You can't just be a leader all by itself. You also have to have some management as part of the blueprint, if you like.
Yeah, I think that's really true. You like me, we're old people, and we came into a workplace where I think
speak for yourself. Right?
I think the sort of the contributor role, the manager role, the leader role were separate roles. There was lots of layers. You worked up, and at some point somebody went, "You can stop doing now. You're a manager,"
right.
And then they went, "Oh, you can stop doing now. You can stop managing now. You're a leader."
Yeah,
that's not true anymore.
No
I meet very, very senior people in organizations who are doing a leadership role. They're also managing a group of people, and they're probably doing some of the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've seen that vacuum, haven't we? We've seen that vacuum in so many teams where there is an issue to fill that gap. People seem to be, not all the time, but almost working one, if not two levels below them, doing some of those things that are not responsibilities that they should have. Partly because they're lost in their role, but partly because there isn't actually the infrastructure that there used to be that you were just describing. So, to fill that gap, actually, I'm working a level below the level that I'm currently in.
And I wonder if some of that comes from comfort in that I actually, the role beneath me, the thing I used to do, I understand how to do that. I get how to do that. And it comes back to that, why people sometimes come in and say, well, who am I to lead people? What do I know?
Mm-hmm.
And you go, well, actually, you know how the job used to be done quite well.
Mm-hmm.
So you've probably got a grounding of, well, how does it need to change, and where do we need to go, and what's important and what's not important? Because you think about what we're asking of somebody in a leadership role, we're not asking them to be the expert.
No.
We're not asking them to know all the answers. Ironically, we're probably asking them the opposite. We're asking them to go and work on the bit no one knows the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the biggest, and I'll just use your expert reference, the biggest part, the bit of expertise that we'd like from a leader, or that is useful for a leader to have, is to be able to get the best out of other people around them.
Yeah.
So being able to sort of understand the strengths and weaknesses and harness the strengths and weaknesses of people around them, so that, all of the roles and all of the work that needs to be done is being done by the right people, which means you don't need to be the expert to do that.
Yes, because what they need from you isn't you to be better at what they do. They need for you to give them some sort of understanding of, well, that bit's important, that bit's not important. We can do this, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
I often think, when we talk about, leaders, often the most valuable thing you do as leaders isn't, clearly you need to create clarity and direction,
mm-hmm.
but you also are the one person in the whole group who can go, yeah, we're not going to do that bit,
right?
Because we don't have time. We can let that bit go. And so you're kind of, people are looking at you as the leader to work out, or to give them safety, to give them the sort of the security blanket of, it's okay, we can't do it all.
Yeah.
We're going to focus on one or two things, or five or six things, or we're going to over-engineer this bit, but not do this bit yet.
Yes,
it's those kind of questions, and then you sort of goes back to your original comment. Well, why couldn't that be you?
Right. Yeah, why couldn't that be you?
It's just another learned skill, but it takes time.
That and you're right, it does. But I think also that hints at the imposter thoughts and the imposter syndrome stuff that actually comes to the fore.
Yes.
So, I guess the people who are wandering around going, yeah, but I'm not good enough to do this. Go back to the original question, who am I to lead people? Is there some sort of fragility in that question where they're sort of going, I'm not good enough. Why me? Why am I the leader? Not because I don't want to necessarily be the leader, but I've got some self-doubt around my ability to lead effectively.
And that's really interesting, but it's quite normal. I saw some research once that I think suggested that entrepreneurial leaders, it's quite a high number. I think it's in the 70s, continually suffer from, imposter thoughts, sort of wake up and go, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
But they, the thing that makes them entrepreneurial, makes them good at what they do is the ability to harness that to go, all right, so I now need to work at learning how to do this or ask more questions or become more curious.
Right.
Because that's the leadership trait that kind of works for them. So it's, to get, if you've been given a responsibility of something and you're thinking, well, why me? Why am I the leader?
Yeah.
Those thoughts are normal, but you can't let that stop you.
No, absolutely. And in fact, if you harness that really well, then that speaks to vulnerability in leaders, isn't it? That rare breed of leader, when somebody goes to ask them for some certainty or ask them a question and ask them for some clarity, and the leader turns around and says, well, actually, we don't know that yet. That's what we need to explore. We're going in this direction, but, I don't have the absolute either scientific or critical piece of information to give you an answer to that at the moment. That's what we need to find out. And some people will not be comfortable with that because they feel that it's an expectation of them that the leader should know everything.
Yes, and there's some. I remember seeing some stuff once. There's some cultural differences of that. So depending where you are in the world, that expectation goes up or down. That actually the people above me should know more and know the answers.
Right.
So that puts pressure on, depending where you've grown up and where you come from and the beliefs you have around it. But it's an unrealistic expectation that anyone can lead by knowing all the answers. We live in a world with such high uncertainty, such technological change. How could you know all the answers? That I'd be more worried about the ones that think they do, because that's a massive level of delusion.
Yeah.
Now, there's a difference between looking like you're confident when you're cacking yourself,
right,
and not understanding that you don't really know, and that you're having to find out and make it up.
True. But also this vulnerability piece where it's the best strategy surely must be to go, look, I don't know the answer to that, and we do need to find out the answer to that, because the worst thing you can do is to go, I'm going to make it up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think that also comes out in the key skill of a leader. In fact, there's almost an argument that says the only thing that makes you a leader is the ability to harness followers.
Right.
You can't walk into anywhere and say, I'm a leader. People have to give you that title. They have to follow you.
Right.
And there's that, that's great. I always love that YouTube video. I can't remember the guy's name on the TED Talk who uses the kid dancing on the side of the hill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I think he ends that with without the first follower, you're just a lone nut dancing in a field. And I think it's true. I think a lot of people want leadership and forget that you are given leadership by other people.
Right.
So who am I to lead? Well, the answer is, if other people think you are, then you are.
Then you are. Absolutely.
Next time on The Question Is.
We're all likely to react with a level of emotion because we don't like to be pulled up on something. But I think, we also have to go, how fair is this feedback? How can I validate this? Is it real or is it somebody's opinion?
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organization, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.